Stress and anxiety. Holy smokes. I don't know if you've paid attention to it during your time living with diabetes, but I can say as I've gotten older, as I've worked with more people, as I've actually experienced life and not just being in school and all that, anxiety and stress are massive, massive players in the game when it comes to your blood sugar. And if your stress is out of control, your blood sugars will likely follow suit. The proportion of people living with diabetes that have so much more mental health distress is higher because think about it, right? Not only are we dealing with this condition day in and day out, we don't get a break. There's no, oh, I'm going to chill. I'm not dealing with diabetes for a week. It's, I got to deal with this every single day for the rest of my life. But you're also dealing with everything else in life at the same time. Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. All right, what is going on? Happy day before Halloween, which is also 2 days before all of your low snacks are going to be on sale at a grocery store or drugstore near you. So that's always fun. Lots of candy corn, lots of Smarties and whatever else you like that is going to just hit your bloodstream quick to raise that low. And if you're really smart, you'll have it for now the next year. And then you just do this on a yearly cycle. You load up on a bunch of fast acting glucose and then you just restock the following year. I'm still convinced all candy corn was produced in like 13 and we're just eating from the same batch because no one likes it. But I digress. This month has felt funky. Before I get into everything, I don't know about you, but it's felt like the fastest month, like a blink of an eye and it's over, but it's also felt like long and drawn out. Because as you remember, early in the month, the second or third day of the month, I had that crazy diabetes scare where my pump site came off, my blood sugar got super high. That was still this month. This was also my birthday month. There was a bunch of things that went on, but I feel like there's just been this vibe. And I don't know if it's an anxious vibe. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like there's this just strange vibe in the world right now. And so I just want to at least do my part to emanate some positivity into your life and make your life a little bit better with this episode today. And if you're not considering, hey, I want to be positive, or if you're feeling overwhelmingly negative, something to just consider doing before I jump into everything, which I promise this is related, but something to consider doing is just express gratitude. Have like a little gratitude, just rampage where you're going for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds of just things you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be diabetes related, but it tends to really shift how your entire mindset's feeling, how your entire body's feeling, how all of your vibes are feeling, and things get better. But I will say it's been a strange vibe over the past little bit. And something on that note that I want to talk about is especially in the realm of diabetes, stress and anxiety. Holy smokes. I don't know if you've paid attention to it during your time living with diabetes. If you haven't had it for that long, or you're on the younger side, maybe you haven't just been as in tune with it. But I can say as I've gotten older, as I've worked with more people, as I've actually experienced life and not just, being in school and all that, anxiety and stress are massive, massive players in the game when it comes to your blood sugar. And if your stress is out of control, your blood sugars will likely follow suit. It's kind of like the conductor of the orchestra, right? You got somebody up front waving their fingers, doing their thing. Yeah, you guys are playing here and you guys are playing there. And, the strings are going and then the horns and whatever. It's a lot like that with the blood sugars and stress and really just your state in general. When I mean state, I don't mean you're from Mississippi or you're from California. I mean your state, how your being is, what your outlook is in that moment of life. So whether you're being very positive, you're happy, you're negative, you're sad, you're stressed, whatever it is, that tends to dictate a lot of the blood sugars. And it's really, an on-off switch, right? When you're on, when you're happy, when you're chill, when you're relaxed, when there's the absence of stress, your blood sugars do what they're going to do on a normal basis. When stress is there, Not fun, not a great experience. 0 out of 10 recommend. And a really good illustration of this, probably one of the best ones I can give you with stress, is actually a time I was in grad school. This was mid 2010s. It's also really weird to say 2010s or the 2000s I can kind of get, but yeah, back in the mid 2010s, like it seemed like just a few years ago. But anyways, in the mid 2010s, I remember there was a time frame, and you may have heard this description, you may not have yet, but it's very important and you'll see why. There was a time frame, I was in school, I had a bunch of exams coming up. So, the typical, oh my goodness, I got to do well in school, grades, got to do well, got to pass, etc. On top of that, in my personal life, there was just all sorts of tumultuousness. There was all sorts of rockiness. I was in a really, really not good relationship, and that was taking a massive toll. I was barely sleeping. My appetite was all 50 shades of messed up, and it was not a good situation at all. And others after the fact, after I got through this stage of life, actually had told me that I was a shell of myself as a human. So you can always go into this more in a different episode, kind of peel back the onions and the layers of me as a human, but also how it impacted my blood sugars and diabetes. But needless to say, it was a very stressful time. And I tend to have stress manifest in my chest, right? In my middle of my chest, that little that tightness feeling, almost like, not that you're out of breath, but just that tightness area in the middle of your chest where you feel like everything's just a little bit tougher. And it was one of those things where it was just ever present and it didn't go away for, quite frankly, probably weeks. But there were a couple days in particular, I really noticed it. And on those days, I remember I woke up, my blood sugar was already high because I was stressed. I went up to 220, 225, 230, and I hung out there and I dosed and I corrected. I ate some food. I ended up staying on the lower carb side of things because I thought that might help bring my number down, and nothing worked. I stayed at 20 to 230, corrected again, nothing happened. Corrected again, nothing happened. Went to class, nothing happened. And I just had this constant correction, but it wasn't rage bolusing. It was, okay, it's been 2 hours, let me correct again. Okay, it's been an hour 45, let me correct again. It's been 2.5 hours, let me correct again. In all, for this blood sugar, that should have theoretically only been for me 2-3 units max to bring me back down into the 120, 130 range, I ended up taking, I'll let you guess for a second. It was over 11 units. It was like 11 and change. And I just kept taking the insulin. Of course, taking for whatever food I managed to get into my body as well, because I don't do well with eating when I'm stressed. And that's a separate thing. And it's another thing that can be detrimental to your blood sugar. But my number would not come down. And this was from 8 a.m. till probably 9 p.m., just sitting at 220. And ultimately, what ended up happening? You're like, okay, why are you telling me this? I finally, I don't know how to describe it except for I just straight up white flag, surrendered. I'm done. I can't focus on this. I'm stressed, whatever. Can't deal with this right now. And I relaxed and I chilled out and my subconscious brain chilled out. And suddenly my blood sugar floated right back down to 120 without any insulin, without anything. And I'm not here to tell you, meditation and relaxing your stress solves your diabetes. I'm not telling you that whatsoever. But what I am telling you is the amount of stress and the amount of cortisol your body can produce can absolutely just decimate your blood sugars to the point where the only way for them to come down is going to be not through brute force of dosing and walking and pounding water and all that. It is literally through relaxing your subconscious brain. And I've noticed this and time again in life is when stress happens really badly, whether it's myself, whether it's our patients, I see it all the time. People have a stressful job, or there's a situation with their family going on that's crazy, or there's something else that goes on that's completely unexpected and a wrench in their plans. They are just decimated from a blood sugar perspective. And it is not a fun experience at all because it feels like no matter what you do, your blood sugar is not going anywhere. You can do everything correctly in the book. And by correctly, I mean, the typical high blood sugar strategies. Nothing's going to matter until your subconscious mind relaxes. And as a whole, people with diabetes, there's plenty of stats and plenty of studies out there where it shows people with diabetes are far more likely to experience anxiety or experience mental health distress, experience depression. There's plenty of stats that back all of that up. I can let you dig into all of that if you'd like, but the proportion of people living with diabetes that have so much more mental health distress is higher because think about it, right? Not only are we dealing with this condition day in and day out, we don't get a break. There's no, I'm going to chill. I'm not dealing with diabetes for a week. It's, I got to deal with this every single day for the rest of my life, but you're also dealing with everything else in life at the same time. And remember, there's a different stat that had mentioned, okay, if you have type 1 diabetes and you do everything you're supposed to do, and by supposed to to, I mean every single possible thing clinically that a person with diabetes is supposed to do on a daily basis, it would take like 2.5 or 3 hours per day to just do every single thing. And again, we're talking check your feet. We're talking measure your food. We're talking log your food, check your trends, correct dose, etc. We don't have time for 3 hours or so to do all of these diabetes management things. So the goal is to do as many of them as possible, and maybe some of them become weekly tasks or monthly things. But you're obviously day to day, you're still having to use your brain power and your brain capacity towards something that the rest of the population does not have to deal with. And then tack on the fact that you are also dealing with everything else in life that everyone without diabetes is doing. So the family life, the activities, any external stresses, job stress or career stress, family things, social things. It's a lot. And I feel like this time of year, and again, I don't know if it's just me, I don't know if it's just this particular month, but this time of year feels like a lot of this just culminates and it's just this giant kaboom, and stress is just ever present, and it can just knock you on your butt if you live with diabetes, because that's just another thing to contend with. Hey guys, I have a big project due tomorrow and my kid doesn't feel well, and oh, by the way, I'm stressed out of my gourd and I didn't sleep great, so now my blood sugar's running at 230, and now I'm supposed to be expected to perform at the 100% version of myself when I am maybe running on 50% just from my blood sugar being high, and then tack on everything else. You feel like you're running on fumes and it's exhausting. And it's not your fault. There's a lot of aspects of diabetes that are just unfortunate or they suck. And we've talked a bunch on this podcast, and I've talked about it a bunch on social media, where you have the opportunity to choose. Are you going to play the victim? Or are you going to be the person that says, what the hell with it? I'm going to make this happen regardless, come hell or high water. And I'd prefer you pick the latter. But what I don't want to discount is the amount of stress that people go through on a regular basis living with diabetes, because it is not easy, and it can be really, really tough, and it can have such a huge impact. And so my biggest thing that I can suggest or request, or whatever verb you want to insert into this sentence, the biggest thing I can recommend is really putting aside even just a little bit, even just 15-20 minutes a day, but some sort of time for you and for your mental health. Because if you're not, you're setting yourself up for a not so good situation, because that chronic stress, it's been shown on a cellular level, that chronic stress is not doing you any favors. And it's not just the blood sugars, which of course you probably know the science cascade, right? The blood sugar is higher, and therefore the sugars glycated onto the red blood cells, and then that can stick to certain things and have advanced glycation end products, and that can have potentially negative consequences towards the microvascular, so like your little teeny veins in your body and your blood vessels in your body, and also on the macrovascular, the bigger arteries and veins and blood vessels in your body. So we don't want any of that nonsense, right? We got stuff to do. We don't have time for that nonsense. But at the same time, people are like, oh, I got to make sure I'm doing a million things, and just slow down. It's the first thing I can say. If you're having stress, feeling those physical symptoms, things are not feeling the way that they're supposed to, stop, breathe, do that 3, 4, 5 times at that pace, right? Breathe in, hold it, breathe out. You can be in your car on the way from rush hour, but I can tell you, as much as you might think, oh, this seems all hokey and all of that, the stuff works. There is science backing it up, and it helps so much with your blood sugars, because what you're working on doing is calming down your nervous system's response, your fight or flight response that's causing that stress in the first place. And if you can do that, you're able to think more clearly. Your cortisol levels will come down. Your blood sugars will get better because the cortisol levels are coming down. And then you're going to be able to function at a lot higher of a level. But relaxing that 15-20 minutes a day, I mean, this could be anything from meditation. I love meditation. I meditate usually once a day, not for a long time, right? 5, 7, 8 minutes, nothing crazy. But by doing that, I feel like I can enter the day with a clear head or end the day with a clear head. And it tends to work pretty nice. And just focusing on being present, I feel like is bigger than anything when we're distracted by 80 million things at the same time. And in the story I talked about before, that was what I did when my blood sugar decided to finally drop. Was I meditated and I said, I'm going to chill. It's going to be great. And lo and behold, boom, my blood sugar dropped. And again, not saying that meditation is going to lower your blood sugar, but it will lower that cortisol and that fight or flight response if you're actively having it. Exercise is a great stress reliever at baseline, ideally you're exercising anyway, but great stress reliever, great way to really be focused because you're picking up a heavy weight or you're going on a run or you're using an elliptical or something. If you're challenging and maximizing your body's energy at such a high level for a very, very directed period of time, you don't have a choice but to be present, because if you're not present, you're not gonna be able to perform. If you're in the middle of a heavy bench press or a heavy squat or a set of 30 kettlebell swings, you can't really have your brain wandering elsewhere, stressed about something, because then you're not gonna be able to perform the rep. You're not gonna be able to perform the rep safely at the very least. So keep that in mind. Exercise is a great one. Even just going for a walk. Nature tends to be amazing when you can get away with it. I know this time of year, the nature is deteriorating pretty quickly unless you enjoy cold weather. But again, I digress. Meditation's great. Mindfulness, focusing on being present is fantastic. That is something else I highly recommend. And it could be even something as simple as, hey, I'm gonna just stop and do something, let my creative brain wander. Some people like to color, right? Some people like to just have some time to just unwind and sit in a bath and chill. Some people literally will stare at a wall. And I will be quite honest, there are times I sit and stare at a wall myself. And I just, do that and just zone out a little bit. And that's okay. Because at the end of the day, it has to be whatever is going to work best for you to help you relax. Reading a book can also be great if it's something that's not heavy and something that's relaxing for you. Usually I would say, fiction in that case, something you enjoy. But the biggest thing here is making time for stuff that you enjoy that allows you to just get engrossed in the moment, where you almost lose track of time and you're so focused on right now. Because if you don't, I can tell you, the world's not going to make that time for you. And at the end of the day, if something's important to you, the only thing that can ultimately make time for that is you. So whether you've got a crazy career and a family and a bunch of kids and activities and commitments, I'm fairly confident that you can find 15 to 20 minutes, just carve out, just work on de-stressing just a little bit. And again, this doesn't just go for right now, this time of year. This goes for now. This goes for 2 months from now. This goes for 6 months from now, 6 years from now. It's a universal concept, but it's something that so many people just push to the side. Oh, I'll deal with that later. Oh, I'll start meditating later. It sounds weird. And what I'm telling you, this stuff cannot be stressed enough. There's two sides of the coin. There's the side that says, my blood sugar is 237. Well, that stinks. How did I get so high? I guess I'll correct and deal with it. Then there's the side of the coin that says, all right, my blood sugar is 125. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to make sure I don't hit 237. There's reactive and there's proactive. And again, while it may be difficult at times to feel like you're being proactive, you can train your brain to think like that. And you can train your brain to say, hey, I'm going to focus on this now so I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z down the road. I'm going to focus on de-stressing now so I don't have a situation like Ben's where he was stressed out of his gourd and ultimately was 230 for 13 straight hours and felt like absolute trash the entire day. That's the difference. So by doing the little stuff now, you might think, well, I never experienced that weirdness. I never experienced that pain and that annoyance. Right. That's good. That's a good thing. You don't want to be reactive having to deal with that 230 blood sugar for 13 hours. You want to attack it now so you don't have to ever even fathom dealing with that in the first place. So that is what I cannot emphasize enough when it comes to diabetes and stress management. Your biggest thing here is really focusing on something. I don't care, like I said, meditation, mindfulness, going for a walk, exercising, drawing, whatever is gonna be best for you to relax and get in the zone and spending a few minutes per day on that. It is going to make a world of a difference. And if you're stressed out of your mind, if you're like, hey, I've been working on these things, I can't figure it out, it is totally smart to go seek professional help from a therapist or from, a mental health professional that can work through these things with you. And again, full transparency, I've seen a therapist in some capacity and I feel like a lot of people with diabetes or without diabetes for that matter would benefit from someone. And it doesn't have to be all the time. Maybe you go once a month or once every couple months, but it is really good to just know you have that outlet and that person that can help you work through some of these things. Because as people with diabetes, we go through a lot that other people just don't get. And if you are somebody who's like, hey, I need someone who understands diabetes, who works in mental health, I've got a couple suggestions that I can definitely link you up with. So message me over on Instagram or, shoot me an email, whatever you need to do, let me know. And I can definitely connect you with someone that gets it, because I cannot stress enough how important it is to have really good mental health with diabetes, because it can be a lot. It can be very, very taxing. So that is my piece today, is stress management, mental health, not pushing it to the side, but instead saying, hey, I'm going to embrace it. And you know what? During that journey, maybe you start embracing it and you realize there's a lot of uncomfortable thoughts or these things from your past that are coming up. That is good. That is a very good thing, because that means once you address those, you can move on to that next level where everything gets so much better because you're not constantly dealing with the same things that have been potentially holding you back for a really, really long time. So that is my biggest emphasis point to you. It's something we talk about with our patients because it's a part of the diabetes equation. Yes, blood sugar management and exercise and food are all massive, massive things that we will spend a lot of time focusing on. But on the flip side, what I don't want to get lost in the shuffle is the mental health side of things. The other side that, like I said, it gets lost because people don't put that emphasis because they don't see that direct impact when it can impact way more than you may realize. So it's part of the equation that we use with our patients. It's something I would highly recommend using as part of your diabetes equation, your management equation, whether you're 8 years old or whether you're 88 years old. Would highly, highly, highly recommend. Like I said, if you need to be linked to a professional for mental health who understands diabetes, definitely got some people I can send you to. So just get in contact with me, shoot me a message over on Instagram, definitely able to help there. And let me know, did this help? What are you going to try next? If you're enjoying the podcast, definitely drop us a 5-star rating. It definitely helps us. We want to be able to help as many people with diabetes as possible. And ultimately on our journey as an organization, our goal is to reach 1 million people living with diabetes to help them have better blood sugars, better quality of life, and live an amazing life unrestricted by diabetes. So drop us that 5-star rating. If there's anything you need from a support standpoint, you know how to get a hold of me. Let me know how I can best help. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode and manifesting that your next week, this coming week, is phenomenal. I'll catch you soon.